footwork. Look at the footwork. Look at the footwork. Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to here. Today we're going to talk about how to plug in any chord or on any note. And so by seeing playing chords through the lens of plugging in a shape around a note as opposed to just playing chords randomly, it really gives you more freedom to move around. Okay, so we're going to learn how to do that. So every chord type has a specific shape that we could move anywhere on the fretboard, right? So for example, this major chord, okay, if we play it here, we're playing the C major chord, and if I move it down here, we're playing the A major chord. And that same logic applies to all chord types. They all have chord shapes that could be moved around, you know? And so now, this is where the CAGED system comes into play, okay? Because the CAGED system really is an organizational system that we use to organize all our chord shapes into 5 CAGED categories. And if you don't know about the CAGED system and how that kind of all works, I'll leave a link down below, okay, where I explain that. But as a refresher, every chord type is modeled after the 5 open CAGED chord shapes. So CAGED, that's why it's called CAGED. So we could have a C-shaped major chord, an A-shaped major chord, a G-shaped major chord, and so on and so on. And the same works for every single chord type. We could all organize them, each within the 5 CAGED categories. Oh, oopsie. I put my phone on the pickups. Teehee. So now let's say I wanted to build a major chord around this B note.
It's me from the future. I'm playing a C sharp note here, not a B note. So just pretend I'm on the 12th fret B note, okay? Toodles.
Right there. We need to plug in one of the major chord type shapes from one of the 5 CAGED categories, right? But which one? How do I know which one to play, you know? Well, each of the 5 CAGED categories has a chord identifier. It lets you know which chord you're playing. Depending on which note on the fretboard, we line up that chord identifier too. And so the B note here is on the 2nd string. And the major chord in the D category, right, also has its chord identifier on that 2nd string here. So we could take that D shape, line up the chord shapes identifier to this B note here, plug in the shape, and just like that, we are playing the D-shaped B major chord. And so let's do some more examples together, okay? Let's plug in a major 7 chord around this F note here. And since the F note is on this 5th string here, we need to see out of the CAGED categories that we have, which one has its chord identifier on that 5th string. And that would be the A shape, right? So we will take that A shape major 7 chord, line up its chord identifier to this F note here, right? And then plug in the major 7 chord shape. And just like that, we are playing the C major 7 chord in the A shape. And so now as a little side note, if you notice in our little graphs here, we were only choosing out of the E, A, and D CAGED categories, right? So why is that? Well, that's just because although you can play every chord type in every CAGED category, some chord shapes in some CAGED categories just aren't very usable and playable. So we disregard them, you know? And so now you might be thinking, well, that's kind of annoying. I need to memorize all the chord identifiers in every single chord shape in every single category forever and always. I'm out of breath. No, you silly goose, because the chord identifiers in each CAGED shape category remains the same regardless of which chord type it is. And so you see, you just need to memorize where the chord identifiers are in each of the 5 chord shape categories. And then wherever any note is on the fretboard, you know exactly which CAGED shape category to play out of. And now I also do want to mention, okay, any 1st degree in a chord shape can be and is the chord's identifier. But I like to have just one 1st degree memorized as that CAGED category's kind of like president, you know? It just makes it simpler. And so now, this same process applies to every single chord type, okay? Even the weird ones. Here are the complicated ones. Let's do a complicated one together, okay? Let's plug in a half diminished 7 chord around this G note right here. So this G note is on the 4th string, right? So we need to look at the half diminished 7 chord shapes organized in our CAGED categories and pick the one whose chord identifier is also on that 4th string, and that would be the D shape, right? So we'll line up the D shape's chord identifier to this G note here, plug in that shape, and there we have our G half diminished 7 played out of the D shape. So that's all. That is how you need to think about plugging in chord shapes, okay? If you want to, I don't know. I guess everyone has their own methods, but that's the way I do it, you know? And so you do need to memorize every chord shape and every CAGED category. Teehee. But that's kind of just playing guitar, you know? Just a lot of memorizing patterns and shapes. It just is what it is. I mean, either way, you have to memorize every single chord ever in all of history if you want to play all the chords, right? So just do it in a way that's organized and that will allow you some more freedom, you know? Come on. Doo-doo-doo-loo. That's all, everyone. Don't forget to go to megantrustmusic.com for the 70 cent guitar ebooks. 70 cent guitar study ebook will especially help you if you're trying to learn how to do this process. It's a chord, scale, and theory study reference book, all organized in the CAGED system, okay? So all the chords are organized in this fashion, okay? So if you want a major 7 chord shape, go to the major 7 page, and there are the shapes, all organized in the CAGED shapes, okay? Same with the scales. Crack my knuckle. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because at 5,000 subscribers, I'm gonna solve a Rubik's Cube. I can't even solve how to get out of this. And don't forget to check out the Key to Music Theory World Tour course. Doo-doo. I don't know if it's out yet by the time I post this. Teehee. If it is, I'll link it. But it's a course where we go over the complete fundamentals of music. We're going on a world tour. Hop in the truck. Let's go. First stop, Fort Lauderdale. Break dance. So that's all, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all that you do. Don't forget, if ever you're just, you're in your car and you're waiting for the snow to melt. And then you notice a little dog passes by. And he has a little collar with a bow. You know the ones? And then he barks a little. And you think, oh, how nice. Expression. Can't relate. And then you get a little sad. And then you say, I want a collar with a bow. And the whole time, the snow's not melting because you forgot to turn the heater on. So then you do it. But you still want that collar bow. I want you to remember. You could go buy one. You could buy one.